there does seem to be a few images that are modeled on the real man and thus genuinely depict San Francesco. The painting of San Francesco at Greccio. This is unique. Francis with a handkerchief at his eye. It is Mother Teresa's favorite image of the saint. Lady Jacopa, also Giacomo de Settesoli, was a wealthy noblewoman. Devoted to San Francesco, she lived a model, austere life. A widow with two sons, Giacomo and Giovanni, she lived in Marino, a town close to Rome. In 1209, Francis went to Rome to submit the Franciscan rule to Pope Innocent III. She was one of his strong supporters. Jacopa would have joined the Second Order, the Poor Clares, but she needed to care for her two sons. In 1221, Francis, probably inspired by her, founded the Third Order for those lay people who wanted to live a holy life while remaining in the world. Jacopa had the portrait of Francis painted while he was still living. It is still kept in a church at Greccio in the Rieti Valley. Greccio is where Francesco created the Christmas crèche in 1223. Francis wipes his eyes because he suffers a serious illness. At times his eyesight faltered so that he was almost totally blind. An inscription at Greccio says, "Real portrait of Seraphic Patriarch San Francesco d'Assisi, commissioned by the pious Roman woman Giacoma de Settesoli when the patriarch was alive." The statue of San Francisco de Asís in the Catedral de Ciudad Rodrigo. Thomas of Celano knew Francesco personally. He mentions in his biographies that Francis traveled to Spain in 1213, 1214 in an attempt to get to Morocco. Francesco may have been anticipating martyrdom in North Africa. Scholars speculate that first he made the famous Camino de Santiago pilgrimage to Finisterra, the end of the world, on the Costa da Morte, coast of death, to Santiago de Compostela, where the remains of St. James are interred. About 500 kilometers southeast is Ciudad Rodrigo, where devotion to St. Francis and St. Clare of Assisi is remarkably strong. So strong that Ciudad Rodrigo is known as the Assisi of Spain. Franciscanist Luis Ruiz Gutierrez writes that St. Francis visited Ciudad Rodrigo in September 1214. This trip is widely accepted throughout Spain. The cathedral, begun as early as 1160 and completed as late as 1230, has several sculptures of St. Francis. The most extraordinary one is on a pedestal high up on the arches that support the roof over the choir. There are statues on the other three corners, none of them for devotional purposes, but to recognize worthy persons. Across from Francesco is the statue of a bishop. consistent with a sculpture by anonymous workers of a famous man, not a saint. Francesco is carved as a pilgrim with his walking stick, coarse robe, hood, sandals, and the knotted cord from his waist. The green-eyed San Francesco at Subiaco. Subiaco, 65 kilometers east of Rome, is an amazing place known for its ancient Roman and sacred medieval sites. In the 1st century A.D., the infamous Emperor Nero built a villa there and used it as a getaway. He had 3 artificial lakes constructed for his villa. The place was called Sublaqueum, or below the lakes. The name evolved into Subiaco. The Subiaco images of Francesco are tied to San Benedetto da Norcia, 480 to 547. To his twin sister, Saint Scholastica, 480 to 543. To Saint Gregory I the Great in the following century, 540 to 604. And to St. Francis's contemporaries, Pope Innocent III and Cardinal Ugolino, later Pope Gregory IX. St. Gregory the Great was the first monk to become pope. According to Gregory's biography, around 500 AD, Benedict and his twin sister Scholastica, nobles from Rome, sought penance for 3 years at Subiaco. There and later at Monte Cassino, they founded several communities for monks. Benedict's rule is uniquely balanced, moderate, and reasonable. Most religious communities founded in the Middle Ages adopted it. Benedict is called the founder of Western Christian monasticism. Subiaco was and continues to be a place that attracts pilgrims. Pope Innocent III visited Subiaco in 1203. This pope first accepted St. Francis as a sustainer of the Church. Benedetto's and Scholastica's lives, achievements, and presence so close to Assisi surely inspired Francesco. From Francis's home, Assisi, Norcia is only 80 kilometers, Subiaco 230 kilometers, and Monte Cassino 100 kilometers. St. Gregory's Chapel contains some of the oldest frescoes at Subiaco, frescoes that date from the 13th century. The green-eyed fresco of Francis is located there. A fresco to the left shows Cardinal Ugolino consecrating the chapel. If the friar behind him is Francis, it would mean that Francesco was present at the consecration. The St. Francis fresco at Subiaco shows no trace of the stigmata, no halo, nor the title Sanctus. These omissions support the claim that it is modeled on the actual Francesco. However, in the fresco, Francesco has green eyes. Thomas of Celano, who knew him, said his eyes were black, of moderate size, and with a candid look. And then there is the famous San Francesco by Cimabue, born over 10 years after the death of the saint. Cimabue did not know Francesco personally, yet in the Basilica Inferiore, the fresco, the Madonna and Christ enthroned with 4 angels and San Francesco is one of the saint's most famous images. This is assuredly because the portrait is located in the same Basilica Inferiore immediately above where the remains of Francis are buried. Probably Cimabue had access to images of St. Francis that are now lost. Perhaps he talked to people who remembered the saint earlier in their lives. Both the fresco of Cimabue and the anonymous statue in the Spanish Cathedral of Ciudad Rodrigo have interesting similarities, such as the prominence of the saint's ears. St. Francis lives in the work of countless visual artists and creative writers. They create a Francis that supports their own ulterior motives. And then there are a few likenesses that may have been modeled on the historical Francesco himself.